We trust the thoughts that come not just from our minds, but from our whole body. Intuition is one of the strongest tools we have to understand the world around us. Along with logic, science, and creativity, it's one of the main ways we find truth. The famous psychologist William James even said that intuition is something deep inside us, while logical thinking is just on the surface. In this video, we'll look at how we can use our intuition to answer life's biggest questions. Questions like, what is my true purpose? How can I find meaning in my life? Should I make a big career move? Should I end this relationship? Author Clarissa Estes writes that asking the right question is the first step toward change. A strong question can awaken your awareness. The right kind of question always comes from a deep curiosity about what's really going on. Questions are like keys that unlock the hidden doors inside our minds. Intuition is a process that happens below our level of awareness. It draws from the deep wisdom inside us, the knowledge held in our bodies, and all of our life experiences. Using these sources, intuition gives us insights that our conscious mind can't easily reach. How it works is still a mystery. As Carl Jung once said, intuition is a kind of perception that doesn't use the senses directly, but works through the unconscious mind. He admitted, I don't know exactly how it works. Even though intuition is mysterious, there are things we can do to help it guide us with answers to life's biggest questions. The first step is to ask a clear and meaningful question. It shouldn't be a simple question. It should be one that can lead to deep personal change. The question should be one that, if answered, can truly change the direction of our lives. It's a simple step, but many people skip it. They never take the time to clearly ask the big life questions that need answers. As Bernardo Kastrup writes in More Than Allegory, if the right questions aren't asked by the thinking mind, the deep answers about life and reality will stay out of reach. To let our intuition help us find those answers, we need to step back once the logical mind has done its job of shaping the question. Just like a wise person spends time in quiet meditation, our intuitive mind works best without too much interference from thinking. As Kastrup says, the unconscious mind responds with symbols and feelings when nudged by the right questions. In fact, this is how most creative people work, whether in science, art, or business. First, they think deeply about the problem and figure out what to ask. Then they stop thinking, giving the question time to sink into the unconscious. When it does, the answer can hit suddenly like magic. But quieting the mind is the opposite of what many people try when they want answers to life's big questions. Because many people believe that conscious thinking is our most powerful mental tool, they keep overthinking these big questions, hoping that the more they think, the closer they'll get to an answer. But often, this just leads to going in circles with no real solution. In her book Extraordinary Knowing, psychoanalyst Elizabeth Lloyd-Meyer explains that the tip of the tongue feeling is a great example of how intuition works better when we stop trying so hard to find an answer. She writes, that's how intuition works, effortlessness. It's easier than you think. German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer also believed that the deep wisdom of intuition comes through more clearly when we calm our overthinking mind. He wrote that the process behind it is still a mystery to him. To quiet the mind, we can try things like relaxing, meditating, taking naps, listening to music, or walking in nature. Anything that helps us let go of the problem for a while can help. The moments just before we fall asleep or just before we wake up are also known for giving intuitive insights, because conscious thinking is quietest then. Along with calming the mind, we should also tune in to our body, because intuition often shows up as a feeling in the body as well as a thought in the mind. We can get better at noticing our intuition by doing things that help us feel more connected to our physical body. As Ian McGilchrist says, it involves the emotions of our heart, gut, and mind. Gut feelings are one of the main ways our intuition speaks to us. In his book Intelligence in the Flesh, Guy Claxton explains that when someone tells you to go with your gut on a task, you actually do better. Just hearing that advice can shift your thinking from logical to intuitive. Along with helping our intuition, the gut is also deeply connected to how we feel emotionally. McGilchrist notes that the gut and the mind are closely linked. Anxiety, depression, and other mental issues often show up through gut symptoms, and it works the other way too. Gut problems can also affect our mood and thinking, so it makes sense that holding in emotions for too long can block our intuitive abilities. When we lose touch with the emotional signals coming from our gut, we also lose an important way that our intuition speaks to us. As McGilchrist explains, we can improve our chances of having powerful intuitive insights by asking meaningful questions, quieting our minds, staying connected to our bodies, and becoming more aware of our emotions. In her book Extraordinary Knowing, Elizabeth Lloyd Meyer talks to many people who show amazing intuitive skills. One of the people she interviews is a woman named Helen Palmer, who, as Meyer points out, has written a lot about intuition and teaches others around the world how to develop their intuitive abilities through her school. To wrap up this video, we'll look at some of Palmer's advice to help us build and improve our own intuition. Intuition is a completely different way of knowing compared to rational thinking. It's a different type of understanding, and you simply can't use both at the same time. Intuitive knowledge relies on much subtler signals than rational thought, and those signals can only be noticed when you shift your focus away from logical thinking. This can be a surprise for people who are used to thinking logically, but as you practice switching between the two, you'll learn to trust your intuition more. Over time, this shift becomes easier, faster, and more natural. Our minds often resist intuitive knowing, but once you learn to let go of that resistance, you can start to reconnect with your intuition, which may have been suppressed by your rational mind. The more you work with it, the stronger your intuitive abilities will become. You'll begin to open up your mind, letting go of ego and living more in tune with receptivity.